What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Wake and Jay College Football Show. Typical show today. We got a Week 10 preview, got some news and notes to get into, and obviously my five faves. Honestly, not a lot of games this weekend. It was when I was going through my picks, slim pickings. Just not a lot of games to be played. I think there's 30. I heard it was 38 or 39 games. Just a lot of teams on a bye week. But you know what that means. Usually when it's kind of a weekend or a light weekend, that means crazy shit's going to happen. And honestly, it's quite possible looking at the slate of games. There's going to be some good ones. There's not that many games, but there's still going to be some good games. So let's get right into it and let's get a little high. All right, let's get into some news before we preview this week's games. Jack Tuttle has decided to retire. He recently suffered his fifth concussion of his career and deciding to step away from the game to prioritize his health, which honestly, you know what, I get it. You got to do it. If you think it's important, which it is important, you got to do it. He is in his seventh year of college football. He did start his career at Utah, transferred to Indiana, finished his career at Michigan. He was on the team last year. Best of luck to him. He plans to pursue a coaching career. I hope he has all the success in the world. It's tough when you see somebody have to retire because of just medical issues, prioritizing their health, that sort of thing. So it's unfortunate, but, best of luck to him. Curtis Rourke is expected to play this weekend against Michigan State, which to me seems crazy. He just had surgery on his thumb last week. It wasn't like a month ago, a couple weeks. No, last week he had surgery on his thumb. Feels a little early to be getting him back in, but hey, what do I know? I'm not a doctor. I'm not the coach. I'm not Curtis Rourke. So if he says he's good to go, if the doctor says he's good to go, I guess. We'll kind of get into this later, but it seems a little crazy to me. Drew Aller is at least expected to be a game time decision. He's been practicing, so I'm going to assume that he plays. But right now he is a game time decision for Ohio State. It's a good sign, but he's been practicing, so that's a good sign for Penn State fans. This one's a little crazy. Helmet communications apparently are not secure. We are just finding this out now. Apparently the communication is, so for those who may be unaware, if you are, I don't know how, if you've been living under a rock, whatever, coaches are now able to talk to the quarterback and then, one player on defense. Up until I think it's 15 seconds left in the play clock. But then it cuts out. Now we're finding out that you can tap into that because they are unencrypted frequencies. So basically, if somebody had a scanner and had knowledge of how to locate frequencies, they could be listening to what the coaches are saying to the players. Texas Tech's AD is the one that actually just brought this up recently, raised some concerns. Currently, all Big 12 schools have now sent in their helmet communications to get a software update to allow the encryption. I guess I don't know if every conference is doing that. I would assume they would, because why wouldn't you? Unless, who knows, maybe the Big 12 was just behind and everybody already had that. I don't know. But they're working already on getting that. And then Texas Tech did file a report against their games against TCU and Baylor to make sure that those games were not compromised. Apparently they already did it. They figured it out. There was no compromising. Baylor, TCU, they did not cheat. They just kicked Texas Tech's ass. So Texas Tech was looking for an excuse, didn't get it. Oh well. But seems a little odd that they were not encrypted, and it feels like that's a little shady. Should have been done probably before the season started. We had two defense coordinators get fired this week. West Virginia and UCF both replaced their defensive coordinators. Jordan Leslie's out at West Virginia. Jeff Coons is going to take his place. He has been with Neil Brown for a few years now, but he has not been the defensive coordinator, obviously. But he has been a defensive coordinator before, most recently at Cincinnati. UCF, Seems like something might be going on there because pretty sure Gus Malzahn just gave up play calling duties to someone else. I'm not really sure, or he took them. I'm not one or the other. Play calling duties have switched. Uh, they also just fired their defensive coordinator Ted Roof. He was in his first season at UCF. When similar to looking at Oklahoma, when you fire a coordinator in their first year, first of all they have to be doing terrible, which Seth Littrell was doing terrible for Oklahoma. UCF's defense hasn't been great, and then they just got absolutely wrecked by BYU. Out of there. But you're firing your coordinator in the first season that he's with you. That seems like a panic move. Seems like your seat might be getting a little warm. I don't know. I haven't heard any scuttlebutt. Just saying, though, seems like something's going down at Central Florida. Co-defensive coordinator. Oh, and also Ted Roof was previously the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma. Came over to Oklahoma with Venables from Clemson. Yeah, something's not going down. Something's going down in UCF. But co-defensive coordinator Addison Williams, he will take over play calling duties. He was actually the primary defensive coordinator last year. Got demoted, I guess, from play calling duties to co-defense coordinator because they brought in Ted Roof. Now, boom, he's out of there. Let's go back to the guy we know. Very interesting stuff going on at UCF. All right, let's get into well, there's no Friday games. There's no Thursday games. Like I said, it's a very small slate this week. So we'll just get right into the noon games on Saturday. Ohio State at Penn State. It's a little disappointing that this game is not at night. I think it would be a lot more exciting, a lot more electric. You know how that Penn State crowd is. Also, I just want to say, Penn State, I am on your side in this one. I've never been a fan of Penn State. I've never really cared for you guys, but I had some Oregon fans getting after me because I said that your stadium and atmosphere is way more electric than Oregon's, and I had people telling me I can't talk about that, yada, 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 until I experience it myself. I don't have to experience it. I already know you guys have an electric atmosphere. I already know you guys have one of the best atmospheres. You guys fit over 100,000 people in the stadium. That alone is just going to be more electric and more louder, sorry, I didn't mean to be dumb there, is going to be louder than a 54,000 person stadium in Oregon. I'm just going to tell you right now, I already know you guys do. I have your back in that, so if anybody tries to tell you otherwise, don't believe them. They're wrong. You got my seal of approval. Ohio State could be in trouble. They lost to Oregon, went on a bye week. You thought, okay, Oregon's a very good team. They're currently the number one team in the country. Let's regroup. Let's kick some ass. Nebraska just got destroyed by Indiana. This will be a breeze. And then they had to come back in the fourth quarter to win that game. They lost their starting left tackle against Oregon. Their backup went down in the game against Nebraska. He's not looking to be back this week. Now, it doesn't seem like he's going to be out the rest of the season, or at least that's not the plan, I guess. Well, it's never the plan, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be out for the season, but he's not playing this week. So Ohio State's going to have to do some shuffling on that offensive line. They're down to essentially a third-string offensive lineman now. This could be tough for them. Penn State, you could argue Penn State's had some rough games too. They had to come from behind against USC. They had their quarterback go down in the first half against Wisconsin. They had to play the backup. I look at that, though, as they faced some adversity, some weird things happened, and they made it work, and they won. They faced adversity, and they won. Ohio State doesn't quite feel that way. You got beat by a good team in Oregon. It's fine. People had that game kind of as a toss-up. Oregon could win. Ohio State could win. You could argue either side, and I could have been convinced. Well, that Nebraska one, though, that didn't seem like an adversity. That was, you just fucked around and sucked. I think Ohio State could be in a lot of trouble. We've seen it. James Franklin cannot beat Ohio State. He's only done it like once. He's terrible against top 5 teams. But, a broken clock is right twice a day. A blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. James Franklin will beat a team in the top 5 every once in a while. And it's been a few years since he's beat Ohio State. He is due. He's due for a win. I'm just saying. Uh, Now, both of these teams, first of all, Drew Aller, is he even going to play? No idea. And I think, obviously, your game plan as Ohio State is going to change drastically depending on who's playing. Is it Pribula as the backup? Freshman, not maybe the passer that Aller is, but he seems to be a little more athletic, and they do already bring him in run packages, so two different quarterbacks, two completely different game plans. I think that's also going to make it difficult. Now, I think Aller plays. He's been practicing all week. He's probably going to play. Let's just be honest. And if Aller does play, I do have more confidence in Penn State. I still have confidence in Penn State even if he doesn't. Both teams have top 5 defenses. Both teams have top 15 offenses. The one thing is, though, like I said, Penn State has faced adversity and overcome it. Ohio State has just sucked. They have, and especially in the run game, if you take away one 50-yard run against Oregon, the running backs couldn't get shit going on in the run game. And last week against Nebraska, neither running back could get anything going in the run game. Oh, by the way, these running backs, Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, they should not be averaging 2 yards per carry in a game against Nebraska. Something's going on in that run game. If they cannot get it figured out, it is going to bite them in the ass, and this could be the game. Duke at Miami. Miami is a 20.5-point home favorite, and Manny Diaz revenge game, I guess. He comes in with Duke to the team he used to coach, and he got fired from it even though he wasn't doing a bad job. It was a really stupid situation for him. He got bent over and fucked. So I guess you could say this is a revenge game. I don't see it happening now. I'm still holding out. We still have a few games left this season. I've been saying it. Mario Cristobal, he always has a game that his team underperforms. He makes a coaching mistake. It's always something that he doesn't quite have them ready. His teams always do this. It's every year. We saw it at Oregon. We've seen it already at Miami. And it hasn't happened this year. It's almost happened a couple times, but that offense has just saved his ass. Just saying, Miami looks like they have an easy schedule the rest of the way. Until I can see him get through a full season without, losing games he shouldn't lose and making coaching mistakes, I have a hard time believing it. But it's hard not to back Miami in this game. Last week, Duke lost to SMU in a game they never should have lost, and Miami probably played their most complete game probably all season. I don't count the early games against the nobodies. Those don't count. In conference playing against opponents who actually matter, this was probably their most complete game. Now, granted, it was against Florida State, but still, it was their most complete game. They scored on 7 of their 8 drives. And I'm not counting the end of game drive when you're just trying to run out the clock, or the end of half, same thing. On 7 of their 8 real drives, they scored. No turnovers. They only allowed 14 points. And they played, like I said, and by the way, those 14 points, 7 of them came in garbage time when the game was already over. They kind of just let Florida State score one to make them feel good about themselves. One of those things. Now, like I said, Miami looking ahead at their schedule, the toughest game remaining is probably Georgia Tech. Duke has a good defense. It's just their offense is just so uninspiring, let's be honest. Miami's toughest game on the schedule is probably going to be Georgia Tech the rest of the way. Duke is not going to be as tough as Georgia Tech. Now, that's unless Haynes King is not healthy. Then this game is going to be the toughest. If Haynes King does not get healthy, this is going to be Miami's toughest game remaining. Offense has been dominant all year, gotten off to the slow starts, but in the end, no team can stop this offense. They're averaging 560 yards a game, 47 points a game. The only downside of this team is the defense, and the defense is still very, very good. They just allow so many explosive plays to teams they shouldn't be allowing that to. Now, again, last week, a complete game against a terrible team, but still a complete game. Duke's offense, like I said, uninspiring, just doo-doo, just has not been great. And that defense is good, and they may contain Miami's offense for a little bit, kind of maybe like we saw at USF, how Miami, it was a close game at halftime, and then second half came and they just could not slow Miami down anymore. I think that might be what happens in this game. I just have a hard time backing Duke in any way, shape, or form. Ole Miss at Arkansas. This opened at 6.5-point underdogs for Arkansas. They are now 7.5-point underdogs. This could be a weird game because we saw it with Ole Miss. Non-conference schedule, destroyed. Scored a shit ton of points. Defense looked great. We thought Ole Miss was unstoppable. And then they got into conference play and they've just been average. The defense has still been pretty good, but the offense has just been okay. It's just been average. They're pretty good at throwing the ball. They haven't really found anything in the run game, and that offensive line has not been great. Now, Arkansas's offensive line, also not great, which I would say bodes well more so for Ole Miss than it does Arkansas, that they're facing bad offensive lines, just because Ole Miss's defensive line is significantly better than Arkansas. Now, Ole Miss did only allow 1 sack to Oklahoma, which is a plus. That's good. Good for you. They did allow 9 tackles for loss, though. Not great. So this could be, honestly, kind of a sloppy, ugly game. And it's Taylor Green's the quarterback of Arkansas. You already know it's going to be a little bit wild, a little bit crazy, because he's going to do something just insane. Whether it's good or bad, he's just going to do something. I think it would be funny if Arkansas won. I do, and I really want to pull for Arkansas. I just think it could be a really long day for their offense. Like I said, Ole Miss has a great defensive line. Arkansas doesn't have a great offensive line. I just feel like it might be too much. Ole Miss is top 2 in sacks and tackles for loss. Like I said, I want to back Arkansas. I do. It would be funny. They beat Tennessee. Why can't they beat Ole Miss? And that's true. Why can't they? They probably could. And they most certainly could. I just don't think they will. But this could be a very fun game. I don't think it's going to be very high scoring. I don't. I think the team total for Ole Miss is in the 30s, and if they maybe hit 30, that's probably the highest they'll hit. I just don't think this is going to be a high scoring one. All right, Minnesota Minute. Minnesota started as the underdog and is now the favorite on the road at Illinois against Brett Bielema, who they have never lost or never beat. Brett Bielema's never lost to Minnesota, 10-0. And that predates his Illinois time. He was at Wisconsin, for those who don't know. Now, Minnesota's coming off a blowout win against we were just talking about Arkansas, Maryland. Illinois is coming off a very disappointing loss to Oregon. Again, the storyline going into this one, Bielema's never lost to Minnesota. Similar to what I was saying about Penn State, they've got to win one once in a while. Minnesota's got to win one eventually against Brett Bielema. Why not this year? There's a first time for everything. Like I said with Penn State, there's a first time for everything. Illinois' defense is very much a bend, don't break defense, but it's also just average. It's just an average to above average defense. They don't allow a lot of points, but the last couple weeks they have. 2 of the last 3 weeks they did allow 49 and 38 points. So, like I said, they were a bend, don't break early in the season. They've kind of seemed to trend more towards the average. Seems like the averageness is starting to catch up. Granted, they do have a few injuries on defense, so we will see just how healthy they are going into this one. That defense has seen some better days this season already. Offensively, they've shown flashes. Again, a little banged up offensively, so we'll see just how healthy they are. Pat Bryant was out with a concussion. Still not sure if he's playing. Was it Fegan is the running back? He's out. He had hip surgery. There's some injuries there. And honestly, when you break down their offense, like I said, they've shown flashes. They just haven't been consistent every week. You realize Illinois' offense is also pretty average. They are just a very well-coached team. There's nothing flashy about them. Defensively, offensively, they're just tough and well coached. And granted, first of all, you look at the rest of their schedule. They'll probably lose this weekend, but they play Michigan State, Rutgers, Northwestern. They could still very well go 9-3. 9-3 is still very much on the table. Illinois fans will tell you that 10-2 is because they think they're going to beat Minnesota this weekend. They're not. Now, granted, like I said, I do think Illinois is top half of the Big Ten, but there is a huge drop off between the top teams and Illinois. Now, for the Gophers, did not start great. Started the season rough. But as the season has gone on, pretty much ever since that second half against Michigan, we've seen a completely different Gopher team. They have started to play better, more consistent, and we've seen it with Brosmer. He has started to feel more comfortable, making the right plays, the right throws, the right reads. I like this. I like this matchup a lot. I think the Gophers are getting hot at the right time. Illinois a little beaten down, a little bruised. I think they're sick and tired of getting their ass beat. It's going to happen again. They're just dragging themselves along. Like I said, they finished the season easy. This is going to be their toughest game the rest of the year. I think this is the year. I think this is the year Bielema finally goes down to Minnesota. I think we finally beat him, and I think it's convincingly too. I don't think it's we eked out the win 20-17, 17-14, 21-20, whatever. No, I think this is a easy win, 2-score at least. But like I said, Illinois, don't worry. 9-3 is still very much on the table for you. Northwestern at Purdue. This started with Purdue being a home dog, and they are now a 1.5-point favorite. And wow, what an ugly game this is going to be. Just dreadful teams. Purdue, dreadful on offense and defense. They're one of the worst offenses and defenses in the country. You'll see it. One team will have a terrible defense and a great offense. Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley at USC. And then you'll also have teams who have just great defenses and terrible offenses. Iowa, Utah, there's perfect examples out there. Northwestern's bad at both. They're just terrible at both. Bottom 20-ish in offense, bottom 10 in defense. By the way, their head coach, defensive-minded head coach, was the DC at Illinois. Not great. I think he's trying to run some stuff there. He's too good of a defensive mind, probably with the talent that he has there. It's just not working out. Now, believe it or not, Northwestern has somehow been worse offensively than Purdue. Defense, they're perfectly average defensively, but that offense has somehow been worse than Purdue's, who has been god-awful this year. And I think that's where, defensively though, is where this game is going to be won, because you have two just dreadful offenses, one dreadful defense in Purdue, but an average defense in Northwestern, and I think that average defense wins this game. If you are a fan of one of these teams, Northwestern, Purdue, if you have to watch this game, cover this game, I am sorry for you. I'm going to tell you right now, this probably won't make the cut for something to watch. I might throw it on the laptop and set it off to the side, and I'll just kind of glance at it once in a while. This is not going to be a game that I fully invest in because I just don't think I can do it. And also, this is probably Purdue's one shot. I feel so bad for Purdue, kind of. Not really, but a little bit, I guess. This is probably their one shot at a Big Ten win this season. If they don't win this game, here's the remaining schedule. Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State, Indiana. Of those final four, Michigan State is their best shot, and Michigan State is significantly better than Purdue. It's going to be rough. If Ryan Walters doesn't get fired this year, he is going in next season with a hot seat. Vandy at Auburn. This game blows my mind. Auburn is a 7.5-point favorite. Vandy has been great this season, and they've always been a bottom feeder. They've always just been someone you overlook on the schedule, and you don't feel guilty overlooking them because you just steamroll them no matter what. And they've started to make the top teams sweat this year when they play. I think 6 of their 7 games have been one-score games or something, or 6 of their 8, or however many games they've played. And then we look at Auburn, and they've just been a disappointment. I don't think people had high hopes for them going into the season, but they've somehow been worse. The defense has been decent, not like they're world beaters, but they're good. The offense has been an absolute roller coaster, which you don't expect that from a Hugh Freeze team. And that's where I don't understand this line, because Auburn has just been such a disappointment and Vandy has been such a great story. What does Vegas know that I don't know? Which is probably a lot, but in this case, what do they know that I don't? Because a 7.5 point favorite for our Auburn, which it started at 6.5, unless there's an injury that I'm not aware of or something, I just don't see how Auburn wins by at least 7. Or more than 7. I just think even if they do win, it's not going to be by very much because we've already seen it. Vandy plays every team close. And I said it last week, and I'm just going to say it again. If you want to beat Vandy, you got to win the time of possession. You got to be really good on third down defensively. Both of those things will win you the game. If you at least keep the time of possession even or win it and stop them on third downs, you'll win the game. Now, you also can't turn the ball over because that's what Texas did. Texas turned the ball over and allowed Vandy to score off those turnovers, which kept that game a lot closer. Can't turn the ball over. Fun fact, Auburn sucks at literally all of this. They suck at time of possession, they suck at third down defensively, and they suck at turning the ball over. They turn the ball over more than almost any other team. I shouldn't say that they suck third down defensively. They're average. They're not great. They're not good. They're average. But they're one of the worst teams at time of possession. They're one of the worst teams at turning the ball over. Those are the 3 things you need to do to beat Vandy, and Auburn can't do any of them well. I don't understand how Auburn is a 7.5 point favorite. All right, let's get into the afternoon games, but let's take a quick smoke break first. All right, afternoon games. We got Oregon at Michigan. Michigan is a 14.5 point home dog. This Oregon team, I got into it a little. If you saw my preview for Oregon, Illinois last week, just know I got a lot of hate from Oregon fans, and I did issue an apology video because I guess technically I did disrespect them, but I'm going to say it again. I don't believe your atmosphere is better than Penn State's. There's just no way. And honestly, I think Michigan might even have a better atmosphere than you at points. Maybe not this year because they're having a little bit of a down year, but I'll go out and say it. They can have a better atmosphere than you. But this Oregon team continues to get better. They keep getting better and better every week. I'm going to take another shot at Oregon. I don't think you guys are winning the national championship. I don't even think you are going to go very far in the playoffs. You will lose. I guess there's a chance you make the Final Four. You're not making the national championship game, and you're not winning the national championship. I'll say that. That's my shot at Oregon again. I'm probably going to want to eat those words later on, but I feel like I got to say it. And like I said, Oregon keeps getting better and better. Michigan continues to look worse and worse. They do. They have not been able to figure out the passing game still. Colston Loveland, that's their passing game. That's it. And they've gone through all the quarterbacks. Jack Tuttle, Davis Warren, Alex Orji. Jack Tuttle retired. I guess Davis Warren is now the guy. Sounds like he's going to be he was the starter last week. Sounds like he's going to be the starter again this week. So I guess he's the guy again because he started the season as the starter. Doesn't matter though. This passing game will continue to be just trash. Defense is still good, and they're gonna make some stops on Oregon. It's not like Oregon's just gonna score on every single drive. It's just unrealistic. This Michigan defense will make some stops. I just don't know how that offense is gonna do literally anything against Oregon's defense. I maybe took that shot at Oregon saying you're not winning the national championship and you're not going to make it to the national championship. That doesn't mean you're not going to win this game. You're going to win this game easily. Honestly, if Oregon doesn't cover, I'll be shocked. I guess I can't be that shocked because Michigan's at home and their defense is good. That offense is so bad. Running the ball, they're good. They just can't throw. Florida at Georgia. Georgia started as a 16.5 point favorite, dropped down to 14.5. Here's the thing. They play this game every year in Jacksonville. They refuse to play it on campuses. Okay, fine, whatever. I don't love it, but whatever. Teams play neutral site games all the time. Look at Oklahoma, Texas. Jacksonville's stadium is going to be, I think it's under. They're going to be under construction for like 2 years. So for the next 2 seasons, or maybe it's 2 seasons from now, I don't even remember. They can't use the stadium. So you think, oh, they'll go on campus for 1 year at Georgia, the next year at Florida, then go back. Nope. They're going to Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Y'all are so stupid. Just play it on campus. The fans would love it. The students would love it. The players would love it. Just do it already. Both of these teams are coming off a bye week. Georgia is coming off a huge win. They just absolutely dismantled Texas, and they look like the Georgia old defense, and running the ball, and shaky quarterback play. And Florida is coming off a very dominant win over Kentucky. I've got some questions about Kentucky moving forward, but that's a whole different preview. DJ Lagway didn't even have that great of, I mean, he did. He was like 7 of 14, which is not good, by the way. But he had like 250, 60-something yards. Weird, just long completions, a lot of explosive plays. But he's kind of had an up and down season too. We saw him come in against Tennessee, and he had a good throw here and there, but he didn't play great. He played great against Samford, which I would be worried if he didn't. But otherwise, he hasn't necessarily been great, and he's never had to be the starting quarterback except for last week against Kentucky and obviously Samford. This is going to be his biggest test, and I don't think it's going to go well. I think this Florida team is really going to miss Graham Mertz in games like this. It sucks that he had to go down with an injury. Lagway's just a true freshman. This Georgia defense is coming into its own. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Florida. It's going to be a rough game for you and DJ Lagway. They are going to absolutely tear him apart. Texas Tech at Iowa State. Iowa State started as a 14.5 point favorite. That is now down to 13.5. And Iowa State's still undefeated, guys. It's crazy to say this far into the season, but they're still undefeated. Texas Tech is coming off a all-time terrible collapse against TCU, so bad that they wanted to have the Big 12 investigate, or the NCAA or whoever investigate, to make sure that their helmet communications weren't getting picked up because they got beat that bad. No, you guys just suck. Their offense is good, top 20 in yards and points, very good offense. Their defense, though, is just absolute doo-doo. It's why I thought the TCU Texas Tech game was going to go over, and I was right. TCU's kind of up and down, but with this Texas Tech team, you can expect them to score points, but you can also expect them to give up a lot of points. They are bottom 10-ish in yards and points allowed, and they are just atrocious at defending the pass. Not good at defending the run, but they're better at the run than the pass. Just the exact opposite of their offense. Just complete opposite. Iowa State, on the other hand, though, solid. Just a solid all-around team, which, I mean, is not shocking. That's just kind of what they've been the last few years. They've just never been 7-0. Or is it 7-0 or 8-0? I don't know what they're at right now. Undefeated this far. Rocco Becht has had a great year outside their most recent game. Take away that game, fantastic year. And they have 3 very capable running backs that they rotate through. Don't sleep on this Iowa State offense. They are quietly a very good offense. And defensively, they are good, but not really against the run. I don't think Iowa State is going to finish the season undefeated. I just don't think this weekend is their first loss. I just think their defense is good enough to make enough stops against this Texas Tech offense that loves to throw the ball. and that defense can't do shit against this Iowa State offense. They can't do shit against anybody, but especially this Iowa State offense. But I think this could be a very fun game to watch, so I would definitely tune into this one. Indiana at Michigan State. Michigan State is a 7.5-point underdog. I think the wagon keeps on rolling. The one thing that worries me about this game, because we talked about it earlier, Curtis Rourke might be playing. We've seen it all year with quarterbacks being day-to-day, game-time decisions, that sort of thing, has not worked well this year. And this is kind of my worry about Drew Aller, except for the fact that he's been a full participant in practice. I guess Cam Rising was too, whatever. But game-time, day-to-day decision, injuries with quarterbacks have not worked well. Cam Rising, Brady Cook, those jump to mind right away. Injured all week, tried to play, didn't work, set their teams back. If Curtis Rourke comes into the game and is struggling to get some passes off, is struggling to hold on to that ball, to get a good grip on it, to really put some force behind it, they're going to waste a couple drives trying to get that rolling. And once they figure out, oh, he can't grip the ball, we're already 3 drives into the game, it's almost the second quarter, now let's put Jackson in. That's 3 drives that you just wasted trying to figure out if he could get going. Now, who knows? Who knows? I'm not there. I'm not a coach. I'm not a doctor. I'm not Curtis Rourke, so I don't know. I'm hesitant, and that's why if you do bet this game, I would live bet it, honestly, just to see how Curtis Rourke is doing, because then you'll kind of get a better idea. I just can't, in good faith, put any bets until I see him actually throw the ball a couple times. Now, Michigan State is 4-4. They're not a terrible team. They're not a good team, but they're not a terrible team. Aiden Childs is just an up-and-down quarterback. He loves nothing more than to turn the ball over. And Michigan State doesn't really get turnovers, so they lose the turnover battle all the time. And it's hard to win games when you don't win that turnover battle. Now, Aiden, in his defense, he has gotten better at not giving the ball away. He still definitely gives it away at least once a game. I think the last 3 games, he's given it away at least once every game. Earlier in the season, though, we did see games where he was throwing like 3 interceptions and stuff like that. Indiana, I know they ain't played nobody Paul and all that shit. Indiana is top 25 in rushing. This is offensively. In rushing, passing, total yards, and points scored. But defensively, they are also top 25 in rush yards allowed, pass yards allowed, yards allowed, points allowed. They're dominant. They are very dominant. And again, they ain't played nobody, Paul. I don't care. Michigan State is arguably their toughest game, but you could argue Washington was tougher, or you could even argue that Nebraska was tougher. And look what they did. They just steamrolled these teams defensively, offensively. One is kind of slacking a little bit. The other just picks it up. This is a very well-coached team. They believe in their coach. They believe in themselves. This wagon keeps on rolling. If Ohio State doesn't get their shit together, Michigan State's already a disaster. Purdue's a dumpster fire. Indiana, watch out. This wagon's rolling. I don't think they'll beat Ohio State, but this wagon is rolling. Even if Rourke doesn't play, they should win this game. It's just how easily do they win it because of how healthy is he. They're gonna make stops. There's no way that they don't. They're probably going to force a turnover or 2 because it's Aiden Childs. Michigan State does have a chance, I guess, if Aiden Childs just magically doesn't turn the ball over. I just don't think they will. They won't be able to do enough to win this game. Michigan State's defense will make some stops. They will. Even early in the game, they'll make some stops. But this offense is going to struggle against this defense, and I don't think it's going to go well for Michigan State. If they want a shot, Childs cannot turn the ball over. And Also, Michigan State, one of the worst teams at scoring once they reach the red zone. So even on drives that they do get their shit together and get moving and don't turn the ball over, they can't convert that to points. So, Child's turnovers, not converting in the red zone, recipe for a loss against Indiana. They'll take advantage of that. All right, Kansas State at Houston. Houston is a 12.5-point underdog at home. Anytime Houston's had to go up against a team with a pulse, their offense struggles a lot. And this offense is honestly one of the worst in the country. They cannot throw the ball at all. They are dead last in points scored, bottom 10 in yards gained. And the one thing they are good at, they are mediocre at best at running the ball. And that's their best trait offensively. Now, defensively, pretty solid. I don't think that's going to matter because they're not going to be able to stop Kansas State's offense enough. They're going to make stops, but not enough. Now, I think this game could be very similar to like the Tulane game where go into halftime and maybe Kansas State has this one a little closer than they would like. Maybe they're only up 3. Maybe they're only up 7. Maybe it's a closer game than they would like. At second half they're just gonna take off, and I'm not saying they're gonna be down at half like they were to Tulane. I think they'll still be ahead at half. It's just it may be closer than you like, but don't worry. That second half, Kansas State's just gonna take off. Houston offensively just can't do anything. The thing they are best at, like I said, is running the ball, and Kansas State is great at stuffing the run. It's going to be a long day for Houston. UCLA at Nebraska. Nebraska is a 6.5-point favorite. Nebraska is above average to good. They're not great. They could get there. Not this year, but they could get there. UCLA, on the other hand, is just absolute trash. Been trash all year. Honestly, this is what I expected coming into the season. I expected them to be trash. Now, they are coming off a big win against an injured Rutgers team where Chase Garbers looked like an actually good, competent quarterback. Now, again, like I said, it is an injury-riddled defense. Take it as a grain of salt. Just don't let Garbers fool you. Don't let UCLA fool you. That win, blip. Play that game again with a fully healthy Rutgers team, and UCLA gets destroyed. Dylan Raiola, he has played well this year, but he is still a true freshman, and as the season's gone on, he has started to struggle. These last 3 games have not been pretty for him. He is completing 60% of your passes, I guess, is not terrible. So he's completing 60%, but he's got 0 touchdowns over those 3 games. He's got 5 interceptions, 0 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's only throwing 173 yards per game and averaging 5 yards per attempt. That's not good. Now, like I said, he's still a true freshman, and I have no doubt that he's going to continue to get better. I just think this Big Ten season we saw him do well against non-conference, but the more this Big Ten season drags on, the more it's starting to take his toll on him. He's a freshman, true freshman. He'll figure it out. And honestly, this is a perfect game for him to figure it out. You are at home. You're against UCLA. Let's go. Let's cook. I think UCLA, they have a terrible pass defense. Now, they also have a terrible pass rush. So Dylan Raiola is not going to get hit. He's going to have all the time in the world, and he's going to find some open receivers. And this is going to be a get-right game for him. He's going to finally throw a touchdown this week. If you are in a state that you can do prop bets for college players, Dylan Raiola to throw a touchdown is one that I don't know what the odds are, but bet it. UCLA may not win a game the rest of the year. Let's just put it that way. Let's get into the evening games. Texas A&M at South Carolina. South Carolina is a 3.5-point underdog. Not sure who is starting for Texas A&M. I mean, it's probably Marcel Reed. You've benched Connor Wegman. I don't think they're going to start him again, but who knows? Connor Wegman, he has looked good-ish against bad teams. Mizzou, Mississippi State, McNeese. Now, granted, he did throw some interceptions against Mississippi State, so But he's looked terrible against good teams, Notre Dame and LSU. Uh, Marcel Reed has given some life to this offense when he has played, especially against LSU. We saw it. He came in, ran the ball all over LSU, but he only threw the ball twice. If he is the starting quarterback and he's being forced to throw the ball, we haven't had to see him throw the ball much. Again, electric with his legs, so we'll see. And honestly, these teams are kind of similar because they both have good defenses and they both have running quarterbacks. Now, Texas A&M is still a better team than South Carolina. Sorry, South Carolina fans. I think that if Spencer Rattler was still your quarterback, that you guys would have a few more wins. I'll just put it that way. Like I said, these teams are very similar. They're kind of evenly matched too. Both offenses thrive in the run game, then both struggle in the passing game. Now again, we haven't had to see Marcel Reed throw that much. Who knows? He might come out there and just throw the ball all over the South Carolina defense, but we don't know. We just haven't had to see it that much against good competition. Now, I give the edge to Texas A&M for having a better offense, but both offenses have struggled to throw the ball, thrived running the ball, issues at quarterback, whether it's injuries or just up and down play. Defensively is where these teams do thrive. They are both strongest against the run, which does not bode well for either team. And South Carolina's defensive line is probably better and going to be the best defensive line that Texas A&M has to face. And I think South Carolina's defense is better than Texas A&M. So this, honestly, I think the over-under is low 40s. I wouldn't hate betting that under, just saying. I just think this could be a very low-scoring game. Like I said, the strengths for both these teams are also, like, both sides have the exact same strengths, and it counteracts what their strengths are on offense. It's going to be an ugly game, up and down quarterback play. If you want to watch a sloppy, potentially just first touchdown wins type of game, this is the one for you. Louisville at Clemson. Clemson started as an 8.5 point favorite, up to 10.5. Tyler from Spartanburg, you put Dabo in his place roughly a year ago now, and Clemson has only lost one game since to Georgia. They're a national championship contender, I guess. Why not? They really haven't played anybody, but they also haven't lost to teams they shouldn't. If Clemson wins it all or makes a run in the playoffs, they need to at least invite or give some sort of credit to Tyler from Spartanburg. Now, I gave the stat last week for Louisville, how they struggle with mobile quarterbacks, and for the most part, they did a pretty good job with Thomas Castellanos, so that's a plus. That's moving in the right direction for them. Cade Klubnik, I wouldn't label him as a running quarterback, but he does have the ability to be mobile. He's not a naff. He can use his legs, so they cannot get surprised by his legs and allow him to scramble and gain yards, because he has gotten positive yards running the ball in every single game except Georgia. Now again, they ain't playing nobody, Paul, whatever. Louisville's not somebody really. Offensively, sure. Defensively, yeah, if they forget about Klubnik's legs and let him hurt them with them, yeah, they're in trouble. Now, this year, Clemson's defense, they've allowed 34 points to Georgia, good offense, 35 to North Carolina. That's a little misleading because Clemson was up 59-14 going into the fourth quarter, so North Carolina scored 21 in garbage time. And then they allowed 31 points to Virginia, which, again, very misleading. Going into the fourth quarter, Clemson was up 38-10, and they allowed 21 points in garbage time, but they also scored a few times in garbage time. So these are the three most points that allowed each game this season, 34, 35, and 31. Again, one was to a very good offense, The other two were very misleading because it was very much the game was in hand and it was in garbage time. I think Louisville's offense is better than NC State's and Virginia's. I'm not going to say that they're better than Georgia's, but they're better than those second two. So I do expect Louisville's offense to be able to move the ball and score. I just don't think it'll be enough for a victory, but I do like the over in this game a lot. All right, Wisconsin at Iowa. Iowa is a 3.5-point favorite at home. Defensively, these teams are pretty even. Wisconsin's better against the pass. Iowa's better against the run. But they're still pretty even teams. And offensively, they are also pretty similar. Both teams rely heavily on the run. And Wisconsin is definitely better at throwing the ball. Iowa still sucks at throwing the ball. But maybe Brendan Sullivan's the answer now that Cade McNamara's out. I don't know. We'll see. I don't expect much from this Iowa offense when it comes to throwing the ball. I do give the edge to Wisconsin when it comes offensively. Defensively, maybe Iowa. I don't know. Now the thing is though, Iowa has been more successful at turning drives into points. They are great when they get into the red zone. Wisconsin is not. Wisconsin is bottom of the pack when it comes to converting red zone trips into points, and that's been killer for them all year. Luckily for them, Iowa defensively is not great at keeping teams from scoring once they reach the red zone. Now, you got to reach the red zone. That's the thing. When Iowa lets a team get there, they score. Fine. They just don't get there all that often. So, again, Wisconsin does have a pretty decent offense. We'll see if they can convert. Now, if we look back at all of Wisconsin's wins and losses, I mentioned this last week, their wins have come against trash teams or trash quarterbacks or a combination of both. And their losses have come against good teams or good quarterbacks or a combination of both. And Iowa is a goodish team, not to the level of Penn State or Bama, but they don't have good quarterbacks like Miller Moss or Drew Aller, even though he was only in for half the game. Jalen Milroe, I kind of like Wisconsin's chances. I'll just put it that way. And Wisconsin, if they want to win, they need to throw that ball. They need to get that passing game going, and they need to get long drives that turn into points. They can't get into the red zone and stall out, miss a field goal, turn it over on downs, whatever. And defensively, they need to stop Caleb Johnson. He has just been a wrecking ball all year. If you can't stop him at all, you're done for. You might as well call it a game. If he's just having his way with you, it's going to be a long day for Wisconsin. All right, Kentucky at Tennessee. Tennessee started at 15.5. That is now up to 17.5. And yeah, I think Kentucky's fugged. This is a matchup of an elite defense versus a pitiful offense. Tennessee's defense is just going to, I don't know if Kentucky can score and how much they're even going to be able to score. Maybe 7, maybe 10. I don't expect much from this Kentucky offense. Tennessee offensively, Kentucky's defense is good enough to stop them, from time to time. I just think against Alabama, you saw it. They were close. They were so close to blowing that game wide open. Just a few small mistakes here and there. A fumble in the red zone, an interception in the red zone, a couple 6 deep balls that were just out of reach. You were so close to just blowing out Alabama. And I think Tennessee's attitude going into this bye week is going to be significantly different than the last bye week. And I think the offense kind of figures out some of those kinks and they come out firing. I think they finally score a first half point since after not doing it the whole month of October, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I think the Tennessee offense is going to start rolling again. Kentucky's almost like, I think Mark Stoops is gone type of thing. I just think the team is done. They're just ready for the offseason. Now, technically, this is a rivalry game, so who knows? Maybe they'll fucking show up. But if they're playing Brock Vandegrift, maybe they'll score a couple times. If they're playing with Gavin Wimsatt, it's going to be a long day for Kentucky fans. I don't think this game is ever going to be close. If it is, it'll be close at halftime. But if you're a Tennessee fan, you will never be in fear that Tennessee's going to lose this game. I know you're not in fear going into the game. Why would you be? It's fucking Kentucky. But even if this game is not as blown out as you would like it to be at halftime, you'll never be in fear of them losing. I just don't think it's going to happen. Now, when we look at the rest of the season, Tennessee has a very manageable schedule. They face Mississippi State and UTEP, which are, I don't want to jinx it, but easy wins. They do play Georgia, which I do not expect them to win. They do play Vanderbilt at the end of the year, who is a very sneaky team, so they do have to watch out. But Mississippi State, UTEP, Kentucky are all easy wins. But you can lose to Georgia, win out the rest of the year, and make the playoffs. So Tennessee fans, start getting excited. You just cannot lose to Vandy. That's really the game it comes down to. Take care of business against Kentucky, Mississippi State, UTEP. If you lose to Georgia, it's not the end of the world, but if you lose to Vandy, it is definitely the end of the world. Pitt at SMU. SMU is a 7.5-point favorite at home. This should be the game of the night, honestly. Not the weekend, because I think Ohio State, Penn State could be that. But for the night slate, this should be the game to watch. It should not be on the ACC network, but I don't make the decisions. Pitt is surprisingly undefeated. I definitely disrespected Pitt preseason by having them hit the under on the win total of 5.5. I had them going 5-7 this year. They've obviously blown that out of the water already. But SMU has also had a great season. They fucked around with that 2 QB system early in the year, which never works. Now their one loss is starting to look better and better each week, as it was to an undefeated BYU team. But since that BYU game, Kevin Jennings has been the full-time starter, which has been great for that offense. They've absolutely flourished. And then their top receiver, he's a tight end, but their top receiver went down, and he's out for the year, RJ Maryland. First game without him, shaky, not great against Duke last week. Let's see if that's going to be a trend. I don't know. Pitt does have a terrible pass defense now. Yes, I know they picked off McCord 5 times, sure. Pitt still allows a lot of yardage through the air. Now, granted, they have a very good run defense, which SMU does thrive on the run game, but they are terrible against the pass defense. And Rhett Lashley, for those who don't remember, this is not the first time he has had to face Pitt, because he was in the ACC before SMU got there. He was in Miami, and if I remember correctly, he did pretty well against Narduzzi those 2 times. So we'll see. We'll see if Kevin Jennings is able to not turn the ball over 3 times and get that passing game going without his top, pass catcher. SMU could roll to a pretty easy win. It all lies on Kevin Jennings. It does. Every week it does. But if he can figure it out without RJ Maryland, SMU rolls. Just absolutely rolls. But if they can't, Pitt might squeak this one out, which they got to lose at some point. There's just no way they keep going undefeated. TCU at Baylor. Baylor is a 3.5-point favorite at home. And Baylor may win enough games for Dave Aranda to keep his job. Currently 4-4 with games remaining against TCU this weekend, West Virginia, Houston, and Kansas. And all of those games are very winnable. 8-4 is very much on the table. But when you look at this Baylor team, they just kind of scream average. So I also wouldn't be shocked if they just split those and went 6-6. They are average at running the ball, average at throwing the ball. Defensively, they're average at stopping the run and the pass. Just average. Not great, not bad, average. I guess if you had to pick a strength, though, it would be the offense, which is surprising for a Dave Aranda team because, for those who don't know, he is a defensive coordinator at heart. So it is a little shocking that the offense is the best part. TCU, on the other hand, all over the place. Offensively, they are great at throwing the ball. Throw it everywhere. Somewhat of a refusal to run the ball. They're also just bad at it, and they are terrible at turning the ball over. 129th in the country out of 133, 34 teams. Just can't help themselves. Defensively, they're good at stopping the pass, but they are bad against the run, and they allow a lot of explosive plays. That's probably their biggest issue is explosives. Neither team is really great at managing the time of possession or winning that battle, so I would expect, honestly, a lot of drives and more scoring. If Baylor's able to force turnovers, they are going to win this game easily because, like I said, TCU does it a lot. But if they are not able to force any turnovers, this could be a back-and-forth game. And like I said, a lot of drives, a lot of scoring, kind of like the over in this one. All right, let's get into my 5 favorite bets this weekend. Struggled, like always, to narrow it down. But it was also I didn't have a lot to pick from because, again, there's not that many games this weekend. But I settled on Penn State team total over 21.5 at -114. I feel more comfortable with this one knowing that Drew Aller has been practicing all week and has been a full participant. If I found out that he was not, I would not be putting this bet down, but I'm pretty confident he plays. Minnesota team total over 23.5. I don't love this number at -132, but it's also a winner, and I need some winners. They're going to score 24 points at least. There's no way that they don't. This offense is humming. Brosmer's confident. Darius Taylor's electric. Daniel Jackson's one of the best receivers that no one ever talks about. Vandy plus 7.5 -114. I talked about this earlier. You break down the ways to beat Vandy. Auburn is terrible at all of them. I just don't know how Auburn can win this game by more than 7. I just don't. I don't even see how they win this game, honestly. There's like 3 other bets I like in this game, including Vandy money line, but it didn't make the final cut. Clemson minus 10.5 at -108. Again, Louisville's the best offense that they're besides Georgia, that they're going to have faced, so they're going to score some points, but they're not going to be able to stop Clemson's offense, and they're just going to score 40 plus. Clemson wins this one by 2 touchdowns. And then sticking with that game, Louisville-Clemson over 62.5 for the reasons I just said. I think Clemson's defense is going to allow some points, but that offense is also going to score some points, and I do like the over 62.5. And then honorable mentions, I've got Arizona State, Oklahoma State over 57.5, at -105. Oklahoma State, offensively, they can score. They get some explosive plays here and there. Their offense is up and down, but they can score. And defensively, they're terrible, so Arizona State's going to score. I just think this could be a higher scoring game. The only thing that worries me is if Arizona State just goes on a lot of long drives and doesn't get explosive plays. That could hinder my love for that one. Vandy team total over 21.5 -108. Maybe Pavia is not is not 100%. Yes, our defense is okay. Vandy's still going to score at least 3 touchdowns. They're not going to be held under 20.5, 21, I should say. They're just not 3 touchdowns at least. And then my last honorable mention, TCU Baylor over 64.5 at -110. For the reasons I already mentioned just a few minutes ago. I feel like there's going to be a lot of quick drives, a lot of scoring, not a lot of defense played. I like the over in that one, but it didn't make the cut. Power 4 moneyline parlay: Minnesota, Arizona State, Clemson, Tennessee, plus 286. positive attitude, winning mindset, we're going to have a winning weekend. Thanks for joining me for that Wake and Bake sesh. I'm excited for this weekend of football. Like I said, there's not a lot of games, but I still think there's some good ones out there. And I will talk to you guys later at the beginning of the week to recap the Week 10.